Friday Forum. City Club is where we bring civic-minded people together to make Portland and Oregon a better place for everyone to live, work, and play. I'm Karen Curvin, president of City Club. I would like to welcome members and guests alike, those of you who join us at Sentinel Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB radio or watching on Portland Community Media. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners ensures we put on the state's best civic programs week after week. I'd like to thank our media partner, Oregon Business Magazine. Our current Friday Forum sponsors are Bank of the Cascades, Family Care Health Plans, Legacy Health, Russell Fellow Properties, The Standard, and Stoll Reeves. We are grateful for your support and commitment to City Club's mission. Please join me in a warm round of applause for all of them. City Club is where people who love Portland work together to help solve our biggest problems. Now is your chance to love Portland back. Here at City Club, our members are making real change, promoting real progress, and making real change to deliver solutions for everyone. If you're already a member of City Club, help others get involved. If you join between now and May 31st, you will save $25 on your membership fee. You can also join after the program. Just be sure to connect with a City Club staff person, or you can join online at pdxcityclub.org/join. Today is the first of a number of arts and culture focused events at City Club. Join us on April 14th for civic drinks at the Good Foot, where we will bring together arts organizations, nonprofits, and businesses for a night of networking. We have 3 City Club events next week. On Monday, New Leaders Collective welcomes Commissioner Jules Bailey as our Leaders Spotlight. Our Business Forum has organized an event on women in sports, and our Friday Forum next week will talk to philanthropic investors about how they prioritize funding to encourage conditions to enable everyone to live healthy and prosperous lives. You can learn more about City Club events, purchase tickets, and become a member on our website, pdxcityclub.org. As always, we will be live tweeting today's program. You can follow along and join the conversation at the hashtag PDXCityClub. After our program, Dennis Bueller will facilitate a Q&A session with our panelists. Members, please come to the microphone to ask your question. For all our audience members, please locate the index cards on the center of your tables and write your questions on them during the forum. Hold your cards up high, and a City Club staff member will collect them prior to the start of Q&A. And now for our program. A healthy community is one that is deeply connected. Oregon Ballet Theater will seek paths that expand its ability to provide opportunities to forge deeper connections. This may come by opening its doors more readily, through developing partnerships, and/or by placing a stronger emphasis on dance performance as part of a community dialogue. To that end, the company will present a ballet called Oh, that's not what it says. Rassemblement. Thank you. Rassemblement. By noted Spanish choreographer Nacho Duado. Okay. That explicitly deals with the legacies of slavery and oppression. At the same time, the company has invited New York-based choreographer Darrell Grand Moultrie to create a new work for the company. In a time of Black Lives Matter and hashtag I Can't Breathe, even the recent hashtag Race Together campaign by Starbucks and USA Today, we believe it is possible that a ballet performance can be part of this important moment in our societal evolution on the topic of race. Dennis Bueller, Executive Director of Oregon Ballet Theater, will moderate a conversation between Kevin Irving, the Artistic Director at Oregon Ballet Theater, and Darrell Grand Moultrie, who has quickly emerged as one of America's most sought-after choreographers and master teachers. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage.
Thank you, Karen, very much, and thanks to all of you for being here today. We want to take a moment to thank the City Club of Portland for this opportunity to be here. It's an incredibly exciting time for Oregon Ballet Theater in our life cycle as a major institution in Portland's cultural landscape, and I, for one, am eager to be sharing a glimpse of that with you here today. But first, I want to just take a moment to introduce my colleagues who have also joined us. Kevin Irving, the Artistic Director of Oregon Ballet Theater, joined the company in July of 2013 and hails from Long Island, New York. He trained at the Alvin Ailey School before dancing professionally in New York, Montreal, and in Paris, to name a few, as well as being seen in Twyla Tharp's highly regarded television film, The Upper Room. He served in various capacities of artistic leadership throughout Europe, including Spain, Sweden, and Denmark, and continues to also be sought after as a guest teacher across the United States and throughout the world. Durrell is a proud New Yorker, born and raised in Harlem, is a graduate of the esteemed Juilliard School, and one of the few choreographers today working across theater, ballet, modern, commercial dance genres, including his most recent work with Tony Award winner Diane Paulus and Grammy Award winner Beyonce. As a performer, he's been seen on the Broadway stage and around the world in such acclaimed work as Billy Elliot, West Side Story, Hairspray, Aida, and The Color Purple. Durrell continues to teach in some of the most prestigious institutions, and his choreographic work has been set on professional ballet and dance companies ranging across this entire country. Appreciate you both being here with us today. And on a personal note, it's not only a pleasure to call these gentlemen terrific colleagues and artists and collaborators, but also good friends. So thank you for being here. Across time, people and communities have used dance to communicate, to inspire in a manner not impeded by language, culture, or other differences. The power of movement and artistic expression provides opportunities to connect diverse groups of people in ways that few other art forms are able. The great choreographer and pioneer Alvin Ailey said, "Making dance is an act of progress, an act of growth, an act of music, an act of teaching, an act of celebration, an act of joy," that he believed that dance was for everybody. We at Oregon Ballet Theater also believe that everybody deserves the opportunity to move, but also to be moved. OBT can and should play a major role, a leadership role in how communities access the power of movement to benefit people's lives. Oregon Ballet Theater has grown and been a significant part of this community for more than 25 years, when it started with James Canfield, our founding artistic director, who placed an importance on not only a strong, innovative artistic vision, but one that's deeply rooted within our community. We recognize that we have to constantly work at not being seen as operating in an ivory tower, but one that's looking at how all the tentacles of our organization, the professional company, our rapidly growing school, our varied avenues of outreach throughout this community, all of which contribute to being a deeply rooted company, can be unified into a powerful experience for our audiences and students and community at large. Organizations like ours play unique roles as a gathering place for experiences that connect us through our art form, our training, and enjoyment. But as I turn to Kevin, we all know that our engagement as audience members and as artists and as students starts with artistic vision and programming. So I'd like to start there, Kevin, maybe talking a little bit about how you approach that.
Thank you, Dennis. And I also want to say thank you very much to City Club for inviting us here today to have the experience of talking to you. I myself am a member of City Club, and I'm a member because I believe in the importance of civic discourse and the commitment we make to each other and to our community to bettering the environment that we share. And I kind of want to preface my remarks by giving you a little bit of biographical information about myself. I came to ballet pretty much as a complete outsider after going through at least 2 other very different dance contexts. And I've always really treasured my outsider's perspective. And I got that perspective in a really incredible way. I was 18 and just beginning to see myself as a dancer to be. And as Dennis mentioned, I was given a scholarship to study at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Center in New York City. We've now said Alvin's name out loud here, 5 or 6 times today, but in case anyone doesn't know who he is, Alvin Ailey was an incredibly important American artist who created what I think of as one of the very first realizations of multiculturalism in the performing arts. And Alvin built a company and a school, entire organization that literally lifted people up and educated the world on the African American experience, building on a tradition and a culture that was far from the mainstream when he started. And you know, when I first got there at 18, I really all of a sudden felt that I was seeing a vision of an America that was very different from the one I grew up in. And that is where I got my outsider's perspective. And, you know, the thing is about Alvin, he didn't want to just preach to the choir, and he did not want to build his organization along color lines. He was really looking to build something much larger and more inclusive, and that's how I saw it. So, so there I was, a very skinny white kid from middle class suburbia, and a very privileged background, although at the time I didn't see it like that. And quite suddenly, I was in the minority, and I was being judged, by some at least, by the color of my skin, and I felt the need to compensate. And it really helped me learn about the importance of perspective, and it's something that has impacted me both in my professional career and just as a person in terms of personal development. So the lesson was that until you can appreciate the perspective of somebody outside of your own class or race or group, you can only ever understand your own experience, and you'll never get to a sense of wholeness. And this actually does have a relationship to my role as artistic leader here in Oregon of Oregon Ballet Theater. Because with that in mind, we feel it's really important that we are very present in the community and that we work to define what ballet is and what it can do. Because if we've had a hard time with the art form of ballet, to some extent, I think it's our own fault, that we have allowed the art form to be defined down into a very small idea. Now, yes, it's true that a lot of what we do is designed to thrill and delight audiences, make no mistake. I think of Alvin, and I take his example, and I think of the fact that we are able to do a lot more, and that's not the whole story. And so I do think it's important for us to be a part of a dialogue when appropriate. I want to give you a couple of examples, but first I want to say that our mission at Oregon Ballet Theater is to share, inspire, and connect. And for us, that's just shorthand for our belief that we need to be here in the community, and we need to work to make sure that we are relevant to people's lives. So as Karen mentioned, and I think Dennis mentioned, we are in just less than 2 weeks going to open up a performance at the Newmark Theater called Impact. And in that performance, there is a ballet called Rassemblement by Nacho Duato. And Rassemblement translates to the gathering in French. And the piece, the work, is based on a cycle of songs sung by Toto Bissant, who's a cultural icon in Haiti. These are songs of the slave diaspora, basically. And the choreographer took these songs to create a theatrical experience in dance. Toto Bissant, when she saw the work, she described it as becoming a very general human rights appeal through the combination of music and dance, and the power that it had shocked even her. I'm lucky enough to say that I actually got to meet Toto Bissant because the performance she saw was one I danced in many years ago. But the work, it's not, you know, I don't want to diss Race Together because, you know, if for no other reason than that campaign, which was, you know, derided by a lot of people as being inappropriate, you know, it said we should be talking about this. You know, we shouldn't forget. And the work Rassemblement, I think, allows the audience members to feel another's perspective. We have, with the art form of ballet, the ability to really affect how the world is put together in your head when you watch how the movements of individual people combine with music in space, in real time, before your eyes. We kind of enter into your consciousness, and I think we affect how you see the world around you. And there's a power there. This work is sitting there waiting to be shared. And by sharing it, we are part of this conversation that is quite relevant to the world we live in, because I think the message of the work itself is that all human beings strive towards dignity and freedom. And it doesn't matter their skin tone. It doesn't matter what the circumstances that you're born into. So I'm very much looking forward to sharing that work with the audiences here in Portland. That's a small example of something that I think that we can do that has impact. Our school is also another place where we really impact our community. We have a wonderful school. Next year, we're poised to give over $80,000 in scholarships based both on merit and on need. And we also have an incredibly robust education outreach program headed up by Cassandra Gruner, who's joined us today. And in our education outreach program, we are working, for example, with Title I schools, and we have a program called OBT Lab where we go out to schools and we'll do 6 weeks of classes in the school. We'll bring the students into our studios, and we will have the students come to our performances. We work with an initiative started by the Kennedy Center called Any Given Child, which is about arts equity, access to the arts across racial and class lines. And we're also very much involved with the Right Brain Initiative, which is part of the RAC, the Regional Arts and Cultural Council, really bolstering the Common Core through the intersection of arts and education. And I thought that this would be a good moment to pass the mic over to Darrell, because Darrell can talk about exactly how exposure to the arts at a young age makes a lasting impact both on individual lives and the society that we're in. Now, Darrell is here as an invited guest choreographer. Right now, he's creating a new work for the Impact program that will premiere at the Newmark. And his work is impacting us in a wonderful, wonderful way. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that as well with the audience when we open Impact. But I also wanted to mention to the audiences here in Portland that there's another opportunity to see Darrell's work, because Whitebird is bringing Dance Theater of Harlem to the Schnitzer Auditorium on April 21st, and they will be dancing a new work of Darrell's, which is going to actually have its premiere in New York next week, right? So Darrell, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience in the arts?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thanks, guys. My name is Darrell. I'm born and raised in Harlem. My experience started at a very young age, like in 3rd grade. And I'm born and raised in the projects, so it's just like a lot of tough areas, but tons of love. And I always say that, because I feel like sometimes inner cities get this really hard rap that only thing happening is killing and murder, but there's so much love and so much connectivity and so much support. And mine started early in 3rd grade. I had a teacher who introduced me to musical theater. This is a normal, low, not making a lot of money, as poor teachers do in this country. They don't make enough money for what they do. She started exposing us to musical theater. She would put on productions. This is in the heart of Harlem. And she taught for about 35 years. So I think the first show I did with her was My Fair Lady. And what made it special was we weren't just doing black musicals. We were doing all sorts of musicals. So she, at an early age, was just like giving us all this information. And she saw me and was like, there's something about you, And she called my mother and she said, She told my mother this, you have to share him. You're gonna have to, I'm taking him, you're gonna have to share him. And my mother's like, what? But my mother immediately knew, like, I can't mess with this woman, you know? So my mother said, go ahead, he's yours. So she made a deal with my mother and I that if I did really well in my academics and in life and as a person, or she wrote a contract out that she would pay for everything I did in the arts. And that is what she did. I mean, every tap shoe, every pair of tights. She put me in musical theater camps. She put me in dance classes. And that's kind of how it started. And she introduced me to different schools. And it was a school in East Harlem that I didn't know about with great teachers where I started to expand on more of my musical theater training and all that. And eventually it led me to LaGuardia High School. They called it the Fame School, where I got in there for opera, actually. I studied opera for 2 years there and then said, no, I want to dance. I don't want to really sing. And just went there and kept going. And at the same time, teaching at my school that I went to and taking all sorts of classes. And eventually getting into Juilliard. And while at Juilliard, just really studying and starting to begin my work with more choreography. And that's where the ball started rolling. And after Juilliard, I started doing more musical theater and still mixing it up with concert dance choreography. And then like the ballet world started kind of like opening their doors. And at first I was really like, really? You know, my first work was on flat for Cincinnati Ballet. And I remember the girl coming in, one of the ballerinas saying, is this work on point or flat? You know, point shoes or flat shoes? And I was like, point. I just kind of said it. And like now I have like 35, 40 point ballets, you know? But it's one of those things, and my teacher says, she's 91, she'll be 91 this month. She said, you know, I knew I was helping you, but I had no idea, she says it, that you would have gone this far. She said, I knew things would be great, but she said, I didn't know it would, you know, so she's always so proud. And when I think of her, it's always like, where would my life be without this teacher? Where would my life be if my school didn't take me to go see Dance Theater of Harlem? African-American ballet dancers, you know, who all look like me, you know, who now, next week, I'm premiering a new ballet, when years ago I was just a little kid in the audience. So I said, you know, it's great to be here, and it's great when you think about outreach and community and opening up, you know, expanding. It's something that I think we all could be a part of, because I think a lot of times we don't think we could have an impact, because if we don't see it so quick, it's like, if I don't get the quick results, I can't. It makes no sense to do this. But it's like having the courage, I think, to begin the discussion and no, we're not in here trying to change the entire race relations of the world, but it's a start in the sense of you have a black man standing in front of white ballerinas. It starts there. The discussion starts there. So then you have me working with them, telling them about my life, asking about their lives, finding out a lot of the similarities, and teaching them about where I come from. Because a lot of times, I think society and TV and the media, we're all labeling each other. We can sit here and smile like we don't, but we do. If I go, hey, where you from? You know, you're like, I'm from California. In my head, oh, she's from California. She likes da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She da-da-da-da-da-da. As soon as I walk in the room, if I have my fitted hat on, immediately people are thinking, oh, he must be. Oh, you know, oh, you're a choreographer? Oh, that's nice. Hip hop? You know, once I answer the question, we go, oh, we have to stop labeling each other. But it's up to us, and it's things like this discussion, to start. I think it's great. It's just an opening, just a bit of opening the door, you know. And I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what strikes me when I hear Darrell's story, I could also point to a number of really important teachers that really helped guide me. But can you imagine if the teacher who began to mentor Darrell if there was no Dance Theater of Harlem, if there was no East Harlem School to go to. You know, if the programs aren't there, then the individuals with the talent and with the potential to develop won't have the opportunity to connect. You know, and those connections, they have to be there. Like Darrell said, you know, you just don't know. You don't know where the next genius is going to come from. So you have to till the soil and you have to plant the seeds everywhere.
And what we're trying to do here, one of the things is like when I go to places, what I've learned is that now, like I know we're in the works with, I have a friend here who has a school, and next week she's going to bring all of her students to the dress rehearsal. And I think that's what you have to kind of put, you know, what they say, put your money where your, you know, put your money where your mouth is. So I think the biggest thing for me is getting young kids of all backgrounds, you know. In my case, yeah, the ones who look like me, so they could see what's happening in the room, but kids from all races to get in here and see that, oh, this is accessible to me. And I think in order to break the barriers in the ballet world, I was in the barber shop the other day, and in the barber shop, they're not talking about ballet. But when I sit in there, oh, we're talking about ballet and dance. So, and I think that's the beginning stuff, and all of them, all the barbers want to come to the show. You know,
great.
so it's that kind of thing. It's so small. It's like the little, how do you the small steps we take are really huge steps, you know, and it's really just about this discussion, and I hope, you know.
This ties in a little bit to what I said, that I think that over the years, ballet as an art form has allowed itself to be defined down into this really small idea. Like it's pretty, it's white girls in tutus. And, you know, that is just such a small part of it. Yes, it is actually an important part of, you know, where it came from, but that doesn't speak to its potential. And it doesn't speak to what we choose to do with it. Yes, it came out of imperial czarist Russia, all those traditions. And guess what? Our world does not look like that anymore. So how come that's the only point of reference that we have? There's much, much more that we can do. And if we're not doing it, if we're not looking for artists like Darrell to come and intersect with our traditions, then we're just kind of allowing ourselves to kind of be whittled down to a very skeletal, uninteresting idea, frankly. And it just is not what ballet or dance represents to me.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important to be said after you saying that is that, yeah, we can come and we can sit here for this hour and talk and have these moments like this. But I think last week in the office with Kevin, I mentioned to him that, and he agreed, that once this is over, okay, how are we really gonna make some change? Like, how are we really gonna get more kids from poor neighborhoods into the ballet? How are we going to get more, you know, so we're starting those discussions, you know, and I think that's important. How do we expose our children to the arts when they can't probably maybe afford it? You know, yes, I had a teacher, but now how are we going to do our part, you know, on a higher level to make this thing happen? And I think that should be said because it's such a short time, but it's really about what we do after the talk.
I think Darrell brings up such an incredible point, and something that Kevin and I and our staff and many of our staff are here as well today been talking about, because there are incredible different avenues in which we engage with this community, whether it's through our audience programming, through our school, Cassandra and her team's work throughout this community, but our ability to connect those is so incredibly important. So when Cassandra, could you stand up a little bit? We keep referring to this. Cassandra, here's our Director of Education and Outreach. When she and her team are out in these communities, really teaching and promoting the work that we do, we're inspiring kids out there, just like Darrell was at a young age, to do this incredible work. But what are we doing to create a bridge to allow that to be explored even further? So we're looking right now at some avenues to do that. We have a program called Share the Wonder that has really been narrowly defined around the Nutcracker program, in which we're offering people to come in and participate in the magic of the season, whether those are tickets through to the VA, Albina Head Start, Outside In, any number of programs for that performance programming. We're now proposing on how do we expand that program to be able to allow, when those kids are inspired through those outreach programs, to have access to our school for kids who normally would never have access to that. So expanding on the scholarship program that Kevin mentioned earlier to be able to allow that inspiration to translate into regular ongoing training so we can cultivate that talent, just as Durrell's was cultivated, to find the next talent like yourself. And I think that's a direction that we very, very much want to head to. We've been in conversations with several funders and community leaders about this program, this expansion. I think something's going to happen over the course of this next year or so. And this is the sort of thing that comes out of conversations like this in ways that we can put action right on the ground to begin.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think for me, what I'm learning as I'm traveling so much is, yes, my experience is I'm an African American, so that's my experience firsthand. But as I travel more, it's less about color and it's more about money. It's economic. It's like, so there's the poor black child, there's the poor white child, there's the poor Asian child, it's all these different races, and it's really about stepping up and helping people who have less than, because the way they're going to perceive something, it's just the same way anyone else is going to perceive it. They just need the opportunity to see it, and that's what happened with me when I was sitting at New York State Theater watching George Balanchine's work, because my teacher took me to see, the New York City Ballet. So it's that thing of like, it's more economic, and I think when these programs, if we can start to like really figure out when it comes to funding, how to make sure these kids can see these things for free most of the time, or a very high discounted price, it's so much to talk about, but it's great to start these points.
I'll repeat what I said earlier about our mission to share, inspire, and connect, and just say that it's both a belief in our purpose, but also a strategy, because we feel it's really important that the company survive and be a part of Portland. We think that what we add to Portland and to the surrounding area is necessary, and that if we were to disappear, that would be a real loss for the betterment of the community. Since we're here at City Club, we're talking about this, our civic connections. So it's incumbent on us to find strategies that are going to work. And part of our strategy is really that we have to do a better job at justifying our existence and creating a definition of ballet that corresponds to a bigger vision. And so all of our activities and our programs that we've talked about, bringing students in to see performances or going out to their schools and introducing them to dance, are about creating a bigger definition and being a part of bigger ideas, because we think that is going to ensure both our long-term survival and also a better shared environment.
I think, too, when we take a look at our community, we need to also do a better job. How do we seek out these opportunities? How do we get deeper out in the community? How do we have a better presence throughout this entire community? So as we look at this, we're going to be seeking new partnerships, new avenues to get deeper into communities and connect with audiences throughout this entire region in a way that maybe Oregon Ballet Theater hasn't done before.
So I have to ask, in the room, how many people have been to see Oregon Ballet Theater in the last year or so? Wow. For those of you listening on the radio, a lot of people raised their hands, which is great. I've only been here a year and a half, and super happy to be here in Portland. Could not have landed, I think, in a better place in terms of what I represent. As I said, I came to ballet as an outsider. I first was at the Ailey organization. I then went to a very contemporary downtown New York, barefoot, trance dance, modern ensemble before going into a ballet company when I was 24. So people always looked at me like I didn't belong there, and that there was no place for me. And that kind of spurred me on to trying to achieve what I was told was out of reach. Literally, big stars like Jacques d'Amboise told me, you will never dance. You can never have a career because you started too late. So it kind of spurred me on to proving them wrong. And I've lost my train of thought. I took a little trip down memory lane and I got lost.
Darrell, maybe if you could, I'll save you here. I'll save you. Darrell, you've spoken a little bit about your background, your time in Harlem, your exposure to the arts, but also we've spoken a little bit about what's happening today in the media, in the world today, in various conversations. Maybe talk a little bit about how much does your background and even today's conversation inform the work that you do on a, you've set so much work over your career. How much of both of those things informs your work on a regular basis?
You know, for me, it's about creating dance. You know, I think when I walk in a room, my background, my experience walks right in with me. So there are a lot of questions that I don't have to really come in with a, you know, sometimes it's nice to, you walk in and you do what you got to do, you do good work, you treat people the way you want to be treated, you challenge them, you inspire them, and all of a sudden color starts to fade. You know, because sometimes you don't want to walk in with so much of your story. You represent your story. So when I come in, I feel like every piece that I make, it's like an ambassador. It's like a connecting, you know, and I'm always telling the dancers about my stories in Harlem. So I'm keeping the, you know, I try to like, you just be you know, and again, it's that thing of like, we are so much more than what the media puts out about who we are and how we act and what we do, and sometimes it's just you got to show up. You just show up and be, you know. When you are, it's like, oh, okay. A lot of people, you know, it's like, oh wow, you start expanding people's vision of what you do and what you know and who you are. And for me, it's more about never forgetting where you come from, because your family is always there, like waiting, like keeping you humble, you know, and loving who you are. You got to embrace who you are. There's a reason why we all get in the same room, you know, and all of our backgrounds got us in this room right now. And that's how I treat no matter if I'm working with the wealthiest people or the poorest, we're all still the same. Like, and so I show up as me, you know, and I think it's not even like coming in with a big grand, like, Black experience story. It's like, I'm Black, I'm here, get into me. Let's go, right?
And Darrell mentioned something that kind of connects to where I got lost, and that's the importance of, the essential fact of the ballet studio is that it's a workplace, and it doesn't matter what color your skin is. At the end of the day, it's who produces it, who intrigues the choreographer, who is able to capture the moments. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Darrell, as it is for me. Once you get in, you start working, you're looking at people, you're seeing perhaps on the first day, as you do whenever you meet a group of people, okay, oh, the redhead, African American, you know, short person, all these little labels that Darrell mentioned before. But then you start to see qualities, and you say, liquid-like and powerful, and the adjectives are removed from any sense of ethnicity in the ballet studio, because we're only looking at what the body is producing and what is coming out from that. And it's not just a matter of filling in the lines that somebody told you to fill in. It's how each individual in any given circumstance is able to translate ideas and instruction into actual expression through movement.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I like to do when I was talking to Natasha from the press marketing department at OBT, you know, it was the one thing I like to do when I come in is like, you know, it's a predominantly white profession. It is. So when I come to these places, the biggest thing I was telling her, you have to get kids who look like me to see me. So go out and find these kids, get them in the room, and when I say, yes, African American kids, Asian kids, Hispanic kids, get them in the room, because it's when you have a black choreographer or if anyone else coming in who is not white, these kids have to see this. And that's what Dance Day to Harlem did for me. So I told her this is a great opportunity, and she jumped on it. It's like, we have these kids coming in to rehearsals, they're gonna come in to the dress rehearsal, and I said that is important in order for us to start to really expand. We have to do it now. So it's like, as soon as the person lands, you gotta get these kids so they can start to see that type of inspiration. Because I know, speaking for the black community, we're not supporting things that we can't see ourselves. We're just not. Like, we're like, so it's like, I gotta get when my mother comes, if she sees me, she sees other people, it's like, it's just the way our foundation in this country, when we sit down, it could be anything, and this may be funny to you, but The Price is Right could be on TV. Then it's like, Ma, there's a black woman on here. She just won a car. That's how we have this thing where, even in Portland, if I'm in the city and I see other African Americans, I'm speaking to them because I don't see them on the street. So some of them think I'm crazy, but it's just this connectivity thing. But I think it's important that to get people to see, to get these, and then for me, I know it's teenagers, we push them too, but it's young and teenagers. Like, you gotta get them to start to see themselves. So when you have programs like this, which are very cool, and you're diversifying, it's great to get these kids in the room. They have to see themselves,
Speaking to that, so I programmed both Darrell coming here and Rassemblement together because probably 2 months or a month and a half after I arrived here in Portland, I went to, and I'm not going to remember where it is, but those starlings that go around the chimney in Northwest, the Swifts. And I went there. I'm living in New York. I lived in Brooklyn before coming here. I went there, and it was packed, and not a person of color was there. I didn't see a single person of color. And I was looking around, and I was like, wow, this is weird. I really felt the absence of people of color in that moment in a way that I hadn't realized until I experienced it. And it was really in that moment that was born the idea that I wanted to do Rassemblement specifically here, because I felt that it was important. And Darrell kind of came right after that, and I thought it was a good juxtaposition, because Darrell is just a damn good choreographer that I wanted to work with. The fact that he's African American was just a good combination for this program, but it's not related to why he's here.
Kevin, when thinking about programming impact itself, clearly this program is going to push the dance company in different ways than what we maybe traditionally have programmed throughout the year. Maybe talk briefly before we take questions from the floor about its impact on the dance company and how it how it informs their growth as artists as we move along and develop as an organization.
One of the important things to remember about dance is that it is a very hands-on experience. When we work with someone like Darrell, it is Darrell himself who is shaping and molding every movement, every moment, every interaction, and that goes for all the work. I am staging the Duato piece, and I'm transmitting what I know after working with Duato for 15 years or so, of his aesthetic to the dancers. We have two other pieces of choreography on the program. One is by Niccolo Fante, who's worked with us previously, most recently on the Pink Martini collaboration last fall. And just a small story to share, Niccolo, when he first came here in 2008, I believe, no, it was his second trip here when he came in 2009, and he cast a small ballet for only 6 dancers, and in that ballet, he plucked out a guy who was in the company, but a young dancer that hadn't really been noticed. And he put him in the first cast alongside of their top principal dancers. If you know the names of the company, it was Artur Sultanov and Yuka Ino. And this guy started dancing alongside these other powerhouses. And now this guy is Brian Simcoe, who's one of our principal dancers. So the impact of the choreographer on the company is sometimes huge, because what Brian learned from Niccolo, he was able to take and carry forward into his other work. What I think Martina Chavez is learning from Darrell in this project right now is going to inform her dancing for years to come. So the work that we do really defines not only how you experience us, but how we evolve. So part of my job as a curator of work is to, yes, look out for what the audience will respond to and what will be compelling or somehow provide engagement for the audience, but also what is going to impact the dancers and help them become better and more compelling artists.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool, that's a really great, great answer, and I think it is. It's about the artistic director having the courage to, you have to be, because I know someday I want to direct a company or do something, but I'm learning from watching, because you have to be able to know who you want to put in front of your dancers and in front of your artists. And a lot of people sometimes will ask me, oh, you work so much. How do you work so much? And I do believe, I have pride that the work is good, but I have so much pride in my process. And in the process, it's where you really can like break people's, you can like destroy people's lives with what you say and how you treat them and how you, or you can do the opposite and really change the course of someone's life. So I really enjoy creating the work, but it's really about seeing a dancer, seeing their weaknesses, seeing their strengths, making their strengths better, making them better people, better artists. And I think that's another great moment for like impact, you know.
Terrific, thank you. We're now going to open up the floor to the Q&A portion of the program. And if you've written a question on an index card, please hold it up high so the City Club staff can collect that from you. As always, we invite the City Club members to the microphone to ask their questions. It is a benefit of the City Club membership, and the membership is open to everyone. But before asking your question, please identify yourself as a club member and try to limit your question to 30 seconds, and we will try to keep this into the time frame possible. So we'll start, I believe, over here.
Hello, my name's Sekai Edwards, and I'm a civics scholar. So I go to Jefferson High School, and I'm in the program to come and watch these things. I've been training for 6 years in dance, and I started out through public school, and I haven't come from a privileged family, so the only reason I've been able to train was from people's generosity and the public school system. And I think it's really important what you're saying, because when I started out, there was a teacher named Kimba Shannon who came and taught me. I had a feeling that's who you were talking about. Yeah, she came, and I was the only black girl in my class, because it is Portland, Oregon. And I think she saw something in me, and she understood how hard that can be too, to be the only black person in a room trying your best when you don't have the money to go to Oregon, ballet theater. You don't have that, and you're trying your best. So I think it's really important that I know the only reason I've gotten this far is because of luck, and although it is drive and passion, there's a lot of luck that's gone into it. So I think I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, and it is really important. Sitting up here and listening to you continues to inspire me, and when I see Misty Copeland, I'm continued and I'm inspired to keep working, but I just want to say thank you for everything you're doing, because without people like you, people like me can't continue without seeing you and knowing that it is a possibility for me. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you guys for being so committed to making this for Portland, because we really need it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And just to add to that, I mean, I think things happen for a reason, and you got up and said that just now, so that these two men, he's just started, so he's fresh. He can start new ideas. Dennis just started. They have new ideas. What you just said completely should inspire them, and probably just did, to now say, how am I going to find those young kids coming up in Portland and find a way for them? That's the new initiative. That's the new thing that could be worked on, because it's so important. So you could have just planted a seed for the next group, which I hope she did.
And what I want to say too is, I know I speak on behalf of Kevin and myself. We want to encourage you. You should never ever hesitate to be picking up the phone and contacting us and talking to us about what's happening in the community. What are you seeing happening? What avenues are you looking for to connect deeper with organizations like ours? That's what we want. That's the dialogue that we want to try to create. But we do have to go out and find where those pockets of inspiration are happening, and we welcome that dialogue to continue.
And can I say hello to Jefferson High School? They do a great job, and Jeff dancers.
Hi, gentlemen. I'm Leslie Zenner, and I'm a City Club member. And my question is, Kevin, is you were just talking about the expansion of the ballet and its relevance to the city and being a core entity that we want to hang on to. Was it last year that you had you coordinated the choreography of the Body Beautiful piece that went with the Art Museum exhibition of the Greek sculpture? Was that last year or the year before?
That was the autumn of 2012.
Okay, well, I've been
Arrival.
going for a long time. I get them confused. Anyway, that was just a really fun way, I felt, for even involving my own young adult children who went for years with me to see the ballets. But it made it sort of a twofer, you know, the experience here and as it relates here, yet they're so different. I'm just wondering if there's any sort of creative blasting of things where you can partner up with other artsy things in the community like that.
Oh, absolutely. We are actively discussing with the symphony and with the art museum. We had a tiny little connection to the current Italian design exhibit at the art museum, and that was just a kind of one night only little thing. But absolutely talking with all of our colleagues. Chris Coleman over at Portland Center Stage and I are discussing potential projects, so stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kahasia Burley, and I'm a junior from Jefferson High School, and I'm also here through Civic Scholars. When I was a young girl, I was involved in Theater Brigade, which is something that I love to do. It was a very low-profit organization where I could put my talent to use. I always felt like I wanted to be a dancer or an actress, and that just gave me the best of both worlds. Recently, sadly, we lost our space, and so therefore the organization is no longer here. I understand that you guys are striving to create a new organization for young students, but what about the students who want to take that extra step? I understand wanting to dance in college and things like that is always a very difficult thing when you want to pursue the arts. But for the people who are less fortunate, how can we all work together to really improve the arts altogether, not just for people who have had that privilege, who have the money, who have that kind of connection that not everyone has? How can we all work together with your connections, my connections, people that we know, to just evolve as a community, period, in Portland? Because it's something that we actually don't have, and we have simple organizations, but they're not known, or they require a lot of money for people who are less fortunate as myself. And so how will you guys help people like me?
Yeah, I think Kevin and I just came together this last 6 months or so as we are developing the organization. It's critical for us as an organization to find these pockets within the community where there's real need to connect deeper and provide access to the training that we provide. I think that's a critical part of our future strategic plan. And it may come in a number of different ways. It could come from us literally, directly, and physically branching out into the community and looking for ways for us to have a presence to provide programming. It could come in avenues in which we're partnering with other studios to strengthen what they're doing day to day in those programs. It may come in any number of different ways. And the conversation I mentioned earlier with community leaders, foundations, other providers is both about space, about program, about call it scholarships, if you will, trying to bridge where those gaps exist into our program. And we're trying to be very open to what that means. And because we don't quite know exactly where all the needs are yet. That's why we've encouraged, I'm sorry where the young lady was who just sat down. We're encouraging a lot of community leaders to talk to us about where those needs are so we can begin to provide that. We know that we have a tremendous resource in our artists, in our teachers, in guest artists such as Durrell. We want to be able to have a greater presence in providing you with that type of inspiration and training, but we've got to also find where we can have that presence.
Let's also not forget that we're just one player in a bigger environment. And since she's sitting right here, I want to give props to Eloise Damrosch here representing RAC. RAC was really instrumental in getting the arts tax passed. And the arts tax is specifically aimed at creating more access to the arts, putting more teachers in schools and creating more chances for those intersections to take place. So we're intersecting with that. And our program is just one part of it, but it's an important part for us to be able to connect with RAC. And RAC is just one other player in the regional environment, but we're all committed to doing exactly what you described.
But really just having that improved physical presence, but also avenues in which you can access those programs, we believe as part of us being here, is a big, important part to our future.
So, and how old are you? Sorry.
I'm only 17.
Good, good, good. So you're like the age of my niece and nephew, so I can like talk to you like I talk to them, right? So what it is this was great. That's where you started is a seed. And it has to start, even me in my career right now, we can sit and say how great I'm doing and I'm this great choreographer. When we leave and I go home, I'm hustling. I'm hustling. Like I'm emailing, I'm getting rejected a lot. So what I see in you is you just mentioned a program that you can start for this specific group. Knock down these doors, go talk to people. In your hand, you have these fabulous phones with all the information you need. No, really. And he just mentioned a woman's name from RAC, right? What I would do at 17, ding, 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 what's her name? Da, da, da. Go read up RAC, find out everything. Get your group students and people with the same idea in this part, and you go knock down those doors. And all you have to do is ask the question. You don't have to say, give me this, I want this. When people know that you need help, and no, not that you were doing that, I'm just saying, but the way you do it is you go get the information. When they know you're trying to get information, you will be surprised the help you get. And you will be the one that will get your question answered and get it completely taken care of.
It's crazy that you said this. We just ended up running to a veteran who's actually a part of Theater Brigade, me and Sekai, who was the other female who was here, part of Jefferson High School. We're both a part of Theater Brigade, and the first thing we said is like, yo, we got to get this back, whatever it takes. And
Exactly.
So that's crazy.
It's crazy that I just said that because I also want to make sure that you know the power is right there. You could do that whole, and you have to always be thinking about the kids who aren't born and the kids who are maybe 10 to 15 years younger than you.
Right.
So it's hard because we want to fight for ourselves now. You got to start fighting for the next
future.
group. But in the meantime, something may come for you too in this process. You know.
I think we might have time for one more question. So.
Hi, my name is Carol Collymore. I'm a City Club member, and technically my organization, Equity Foundation, is a City Club member. I just had a comment/question. You had mentioned, Kevin, that when you brought Durrell on and the other choreographer, that you did it because of their talent and their skill and not necessarily because of their race, and there was lack of intention in that part. And I'm curious, because this is a discussion about race in the arts, why shouldn't there be intention in that? Like you said, you moved to Portland, not a lot of black people here, although a lot of black people today, which I'm really excited about in this room. But I feel like we're missing something if we don't act with intention. And so I'm wondering if in the future you would consider acting in intention when you bring in choreographers in and you bring in shows like some of the other arts organizations do now, like Portland Playhouse does, like Portland Center Stage does, because I think if you're trying to be reflective, which I would love to be at the ballet and see more than just me in that room, I think that's part of it, and part of that is intention.
I agree. I agree completely, and I probably didn't state it all that well. What I meant to say is that Durrell's not here just because of his race. Darrell is here because he's such a good choreographer, and I wanted him to work with the company. I wanted his work to be seen, and it was also because it connected to the idea that was underlying my thought about this program, with Rassemblement being there specifically about what I call the legacies of slavery and oppression, which is intrinsically bound up with the question of race. To have Darrell, as he said, at the front of the room in a predominantly white environment upends that. And it is in itself with intention, and it is its own commentary without being more. So what I wanted to just avoid is the impression that there was any sense of tokenism in that, oh, I should bring in a black choreographer. I brought in a choreographer, right? The fact that he is African-American, dark-skinned at that, that, you know, it makes a difference, you know? It's somebody who's there and in our environment, and it says something without us opening our mouths, which is how we in dance like to communicate. But I agree with the intentionality.
Totally, and I definitely hear what she's saying. Like I see both sides, because what I see is like, okay, after I leave and I go back to New York, Kevin should be thinking like, okay, how can I get the next artist in there? But and how can I get the next black artist or Asian artist or someone of a, you know, different ethnic background? I think that's what, is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, that intention should be there. But then there's like the other side too. As the artist, you're like, don't bring me in the room because I'm black. Bring me in the room because I'm good. You know, so say it again. Good and black, exactly. So we got to make sure Kevin is looking for the good and black people, not just bringing people in the room because they're good and Asian, good and Spanish, good and, you know, so I see both sides.
Listen, and the other big thing in ballet anyway is that we're really underrepresented in terms of female choreographers. And it's, you know, a very big deal that there are not that many female choreographers getting opportunities, and I'm sensitive to that. And yet next year in my programming, I don't have a single woman. I also don't have a single person of color represented. And that's a balance that I'm working on, but I also have to do it in the context of driving the company forward. And you know, so it's not an easy thing, because Darrell says no artist wants to be there simply because of their gender or because of the color of their skin. But it's important to find people. That's why I was so glad for that teacher who found Darrell and said, there's something in this boy there, and the light was lit.
I have a good black female I'm working on. I'll show her to you soon.
We have run out of broadcast time for further questions, and we'll have to stop for today. As we close, please join me in offering our sincere thanks to Dennis Bueller, Kevin Irving, and Darrell Grand Moultrie.